Hey guys, how's it going? It's Mateo with LA Sports Overview. Wanted to talk a bit about the Lakers game last night. Lakers won 120 to 102 against the Rockets. And I also had some thoughts on how they can use their final roster spot because they can put one more guy on the team to really shore up that depth. And we already have pretty good depth. So we won last night against the Houston Rockets. James Harden and John Wall played. A little side note, I thought John Wall looked pretty good given that he had the Achilles injury. It's always good to see a guy thriving after an Achilles, given we saw how much Kobe suffered after the Achilles and how he never really was the same except for that amazing final game where he scored 60. So it was really good to see John Wall out there competing. He didn't exactly do great, but he was, when he was in his prime, he was known as one of the fastest point guards in the league, and he still had that speed. He was able to get in the paint and make some pretty good drives to the rim against, of course, Marc Gasol, who hasn't been the best at defending the paint this year. But that's also what I wanted to talk about in the final roster spot. So the Lakers had pretty good control of that game. They had several double digits leads. They were up by as much as I think 27 at one point, and it was really great for Laker fans. They were trying on both ends of the floor. They were totally engaged from start to finish. And I think it kind of starts with Anthony Davis. In my last video, I talked about how he hasn't been himself defensively. He hasn't been the defensive player of the year, basically, that he was last year. But he totally brought that energy tonight. He wanted to win this game. Maybe it was because of the bad defensive performances he's been doing lately. And also it could have been due to the fact that Christian Wood has kind of been talked up as a guy like, oh, the next big, young, versatile big guy. Kind of like how Anthony Davis is right now. So there are some quotes in the media about how Wood wanted to face up Anthony Davis, see how he could do against him. So that probably played a little bit of a part in it. AD wanted to show the young guy that I'm Anthony fucking Davis, and you still got a way to go. And Wood did okay last night. He got a couple shots, but his three ball was off, and the kid's got potential. I have him in one of my fantasy leagues, but he's clearly not ready for that yet. So that was good to see Anthony Davis kind of put him down like that. Davis had an amazing game too. I think he had like 27 points and competing, first quarter to fourth, start to finish. Great effort both ends of the floor. So, and that's what Laker fans have been dying to see. We've been dying to see this team give a shit again. When you play the Spurs 3 times in like 5 games, and the Spurs aren't really a threat that they once were, you're not going to get a good effort in that third game, and I think that's what we saw. Also with the Memphis Grizzlies. Yeah, same kind of thing. Not really a consequential team. They're young. They have Ja Morant, but they didn't even play Ja Morant in some games. But if you keep playing the Spurs and Grizzlies, you're not really going to get the best effort out of the Lakers. So anyways, they had Harden tonight, and they had John Wall, and so we got a much better effort from them. KCP got back in the lineup, and we really missed his speed on the perimeter. Him just, running to the other end of the floor, outlet passes from LeBron, that always generates energy. And with no fans in the arena, you're going to want, the team to generate as much energy as possible within themselves. Looking at my notes. So Caruso was there too, and he looks like he's really rounding into form. He came back one game. I think he played in the Chicago game where the Lakers barely won. They should have won by more. They won by 2 against Zach LaVine, who dropped 38 on us. And Caruso wasn't really I don't think he was really himself yet. But he was showing some really good perimeter defensive chemistry with Dennis Schroeder and with THT. I think the best play of the game, if you watch that game, Caruso, I think he poked away a steal somehow. And then he dove on the floor around the half-court line to get it. And then he looked back towards the team as they're running to the other end for the fast break. He saw THT, threw it from the ground to him, and THT just fucking busted his ass down to the hoop, and he just slammed it home. To see your good young guys like Caruso and THT who weren't, like blue chip guys, to see them pull off a play like that, just like off the fly, against a team like the Rockets, who you still got to respect them because of Harden, that was pretty amazing to see. So the Lakers, I'd say, were in control for most of that, but Houston definitely had a little bit of fight, but they never got it to, I think, 10 or 12 was the closest that they had it. But it was really just, it was like a party for Lakers fans, essentially, the whole time. THT had an amazing stat line of 17 points. He was like 7 or 8 from the field. and he had 4 steals. So that that like stout short body with those long arms were just getting picks all over the place, and so it gave you every reason to be excited about the Lakers tonight. Overall, I think it was the best two-way performance of the young season so far. They had a really good game against the Mavs on Christmas, and that was pretty good too. But there's something about this game and seeing them bounce back after a couple lackluster games. It was really good to see them just care about the result and put their best effort forth. So I hope we get a little bit. I hope we get more efforts like that, but we'll see as it goes along. So one of the biggest takeaways I think from this Lakers Rockets victory was that we can still hold it down on the perimeter with our current personnel. Like I said earlier in the video, Caruso, Schroeder, and KCP and THT. If they keep building minutes together and they keep building chemistry, that's a really good defensive, defensive lineup with a lot of depth. It might be good enough, if our perimeter defense stays really strong, and as currently constructed, this might still be enough to win a championship, given that we've upgraded on offense, and if we just keep our perimeter defense strong, and in the playoffs, LeBron's going to be defending harder. We know that. It's totally feasible that as currently constructed, we could still win a championship. But what I also wanted to get into today was the Lakers do have one final roster spot that they could add on to. So they're hard capped, which means that they can't, go over the cap at all. So all they can offer is a veterans minimum. But what I actually learned today, just doing a little bit of research on this, was that the Lakers can't sign anyone until February 24th. So you might have been wondering, why haven't they brought in someone new yet? We see the guys struggle to defend the paint when Anthony Davis is, in full form yet. Trezzy's not going to be a really great paint defender. He'll make some hustle blocks and stuff, but we're not going to bring the same presence that we brought last year with JaVale and Dwight. So anyways, we can't sign anyone until February 24th because that's when enough time will have passed where a veteran minimum salary will be prorated enough that we have enough money to offer someone a veteran min. And I want to give a shout out to Trevor Lane and Keith Smith. I heard it on their podcast on the CLNS podcast network. Trevor Lane, who runs Lakers Nation. So that's the date for signing just a veteran minimum guy, February 24th. But we also got to keep in mind that the buyout market is different than just picking out a unrestricted free agent out of the pool. So typically the buyout market will start a few days or weeks after the trade deadline. But with the COVID year and everything's all out of whack. So I'm not exactly sure when the buyout market will begin, but keep in mind, February 24th, that's when the Lakers can add someone. So we still have a few more games of getting slapped around in the paint when Anthony Davis isn't going to be defending his ass off. So, we'll just get used to this for a bit. But seeing the defensive performances of Schroeder, who's a Bulldog, Caruso, THT, and KCP, who, in general always bring really good effort on that end, that gives me some pretty good comfort. And we might be a little weaker in the paint last year, but reinforcements can be on the way. So I was just looking around at who the current free agents are, who people aren't signed to the team. I saw guys like, you might laugh at this, but Tyson Chandler, he was on the Lakers a couple of years ago. He is an option. I think he's too old. I don't think they should go in that direction, but we really need a guy who's going to get in the paint and who's going to, make guys who are good at driving, make them think twice about, throwing up their shot, contesting it. Ian Mahinmi is another guy, but I also think he's too old. But I've seen some people say that he might be a good big man option. A big one that I've heard a lot of fans talking about on Twitter and on different articles is Dwayne Dedmon. So he's a pretty mobile big guy. He's a 7-footer. I think that'd be a great addition. I'm surprised he hasn't signed a contract yet, so I wonder what the situation is. But should all our options on the unrestricted market come to it, I think I'd be pretty happy seeing Dwayne Dedmon get in a Lakers jersey. He averaged a block a game last year, so that's okay. That's not great. But we just need someone to be a stopgap when Anthony Davis sits, Maybe if Mark is just, playing pretty badly, I've come not to expect anything from Harrell in terms of, paint protection. And, Dwayne Dedmon might be a good stopgap. A good young guy I saw is Scalabassier, if I'm saying that right. He used to be on the Blazers, and he's 20, he's like 24, 25. Good, quick young guy, which is what we need. I think he can hit threes too. So that'd be great if they could somehow get him. I do wonder how he would react in a playoff situation because it's a different game with the playoffs. Things slow down, teams learn your tendencies. So with a younger guy like that who hasn't had a whole lot of big playoff moments, I'd wonder how effective he would be. But not on the buyout market. I mean not on the unrestricted free agent pool. I think what would be pretty amazing if they could somehow make it work would be Hassan Whiteside. So he obviously comes with maturity issues, but Whiteside, if he could buy in like Dwight Howard did last year, then that's probably the best case scenario for him. 7 footer, he can start a block party on his own, you know that. And if he just checks his ego at the door and he just totally wants to make it, be a part of a championship winning team, if he gets bought out somehow and the Lakers can get their hands on him, I think Hassan Whiteside might be the best option for us. But that requires him to grow up a bit and just fall in line, which teams tend to do when you're on LeBron's team, especially this late in his career. So those are the good options I saw at the center position. I think having a good center is probably our most important buyout need or unrestricted free agent need. But if we wanted to shore up our wing depth, get a bigger body in there to defend wings like Kawhi or Paul George, Gerald Green, he's a free agent. He hadn't signed with anyone yet. He hadn't been on it. I was looking at Basketball Reference. He hadn't been on a team since 2018-19 season. So I was kind of surprised at that. I thought he played last year. Anyways, Gerald Green, he's an option. He's like a 6'8" wing who could throw in, play some defense. Kyle Korver, people always throw him out, and he'd be good for his shooting too. That'd be a plus. But I also think he's too old. I would skew on the side of not going with a guy that old. And the name that's always thrown around with the Lakers, our boy Trevor Ariza, who helped us win a championship in 2009. So, yeah, it'd be great if you could get him. He is old too, but I kind of trust his defense. And the number of big playoff situations he's been in, I would trust him, should things get heated in the Western Conference Finals. I think I'd be okay with Ariza. So, in terms of our final roster spot, can't sign anyone until the 24th. But keep in mind, we might not sign someone right then because they want to wait for the buyout market to open up. So I think that kind of concludes my thoughts for today. I think those guys would be good big men for the Lakers to look at. If we can somehow get Hassan Whiteside and get him to buy in, that's probably the best case scenario. So everyone have a good one. Take it easy.